What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the Raging Rainbow. My name is Dylan, doing a comic book review for Radiant Black number 5. And alright, y'all had me waiting for a while, but we finally got into some super heroics here. As I mentioned, we're finally getting into some of like the actual action that I was expecting from this superhero comic. But it's weird because we're doing it with not even the guy we started the story with. So if you'll remember from the last issue, basically the main character, or what was the main character, Nathan, was in this fight and with Radiant Red or whatever we're calling him, and he ended up in this building with a whole bunch of people, and he tried to save all the people and his enemy, and as a result of that, the building fell down on him, and as we can see, yeah, he didn't quite make it out of that. And if you will remember correctly, his best friend, then I can't remember his damn name, it'll come to me later, his friend ended up taking the power, and now he is Radiant Black. So right now he's like freaking out because he's like, no, he's not dead. So he runs in there, and apparently nobody tries to stop him all that much. So he runs up and he's like yelling to Nathan. He's like, he's even crying out to God. He's like, I swear to God, please, please, please. I swear if you fix this, if you save him, it'll be different. I'll be better, okay? He's my best friend, and I swear if you do this, I'll go to church. I'll get it together. Please, just please. He's my best friend. You can't take him too. So right at that moment, all of a sudden Nathan does have a little bit of a response where he kind of like chokes a little bit, and then he's there and he's like, wait, did he breathe? And the paramedic, for whatever reason, is like, we've got a shallow pulse. And then he's like, oh, thank God, he's okay. And then she's like, we got here 6 minutes after the building fell, and his heart was already stopped. We have no idea about brain activity. And he's like, but he's breathing. She's like, barely. We gave him a shot of adrenaline to help kickstart, but it won't last. He's not anywhere close to out of the woods. Okay. Do you want to maybe stop by a preschool on your way to the hospital to go piss on some kids or something? Like, why are you being such an ass about this shit? Why would any paramedic say any of that? Like, well, he's barely breathing. I'm pretty sure he's gonna die, so you should probably just accept it. Like, we're throwing a corpse in our ambulance to take it to the hospital. So they put the body in the back of the ambulance and take off. And then he's stuck there just kind of like all distraught or whatever the hell. So for whatever reason, he decides to run into a random alleyway, and then he goes back there to like transform, and I guess he runs by Static Shock, or just Static, depending on how you look at it, from DC Comics, because that's kind of how he looks. But anyway, what's his name runs into the alley, and the guy's like, hey man, you okay? And then he sees like the transformation or whatever in there, and then he sees him like flying away. So we get that part, and then we see him flying away and crying powerful tears, right? And then for some reason he crashes into a building and crashes into the ground. I don't, is he drunk? Like, why did he do that? Was he just that upset? He was like, I don't care, I'm going to fall. So he does that, and then like he's waking up and he's crying out to, I guess, whatever it was that gave him the power, and he's like, I don't want it. Like, do you hear me? Like, I don't want it or whatever. And then he can see like, well, there's no really changing reality, right? So he's just like, fuck. So he's sitting there, and then all of a sudden we go over from there to where he's like at the hospital waiting to see what's happening with Nathan. And while he's there, he's watching videos on his phone, and he sees this one, and I don't really know what it is we were trying to go for here, because he's watching this one thing from, what is it, Circle Guy News? Yeah, apparently like these three guys who like made it their mission to just kind of like follow Radiant Black and be reporting on what he was doing. So like two of them are trying to like take the more like high road and like say, well, we hope he's okay and everything like that. And then there's the one guy who's just all pissed off. He's like, can I just say something, please? And they try to control him like, Bill, and he's like, no, I just think this needs to be said. And the other one's like, Bill, come on. And he's like, no, we trusted this guy like a bunch of stupid fanboys, and now an entire building's destroyed and someone's in the hospital. He's probably going to die. And what, Radiant Black just flew away? Doesn't he even fly the guy to the hospital? What kind of tool doesn't even fly the guy to the hospital? Not to mention, this all makes us, Circle Guy News, look like assholes. We've been out here hyping this guy like he's some kind of hometown hero, but he's not. So, the other one's like, Bill, you really think we have the whole story? Maybe Radiant Black was injured in the fight and couldn't fly him to the hospital. He's like, you always do this. You're just like assuming you know the whole situation and what's in somebody's head, but you don't know. None of us do. He's like, oh, whatever. They can just edit that out. And he's like, Bill, it's a live show. And then the friend or whatever is sitting there and he's like, douchebags. So all of a sudden, Nathan's parents come out of like, I don't know, were they in the operating room with the doctor? But anyway, they come out and he asks them, like, what's going on? Like, what do you know? And then his mom starts trying to tell him, like, he's hooked up to so many tubes, like that type of thing. And then the dad's like, well, they're not seeing any brain activity. And then for some reason, we get this weird moment where all of a sudden this woman comes running in. She's like, what's going on? What's happening with him? I need to get in there and see him. And she's like, what did they say? And I think the dad or the mom, he's like, we just came out. She's like, okay, I need to see him right now. And they're like, Kathy. And she's like, I'm his godmother. Okay, well, these are his parents. So I think that they kind of take priority over the godmother. I get it. I grew up in the Catholic Church, so I understand the importance of a godmother. But at the same time, like, you don't really have that authority to just go charging in when his parents were just in there. So all of a sudden, the friend, I still cannot remember his name. It will come out somewhere in this comic, as it always does. So he gets this transmission, I guess, from whatever the hell it is that gave him the power. And then he, like, retreats into the mind, or whatever it is, and it's saying radiant again. So he's asking, like, okay, why do you keep saying radiant? What is this shit all about? And then it's saying, like, our sync is progressing faster than Nathan Burnett. You are ready. And he's like, you're goddamn right. And it's like, it says, the same thing that I kind of told Nathan, like, you're all connected, like time and space and all this shit. War is near for the Radiant. He will kill you and your entire planet. It says, we will prepare. He will try to shatter our connection, but our connection is final for the duration of your life. So he's asking it like, he just says, so he has to kill me. And it's like, and your entire species. So he says, what's his name? And then it doesn't answer. So he's like, okay. So you know what? As cool as I'm sure all this cosmic stuff is, I gotta be honest, I really don't give a shit right now. What I care about is finding the son of a bitch that put my best friend in a coma. You help me find this red bastard. You use whatever cosmic connections you have across time, space, and the alien language bleeped out a word. And he's like, matter itself to get me a location, then I'll do whatever cosmic shit you want. Deal? So I guess it took the bargain because it shows him exactly where Red is. And we can see Red is having like a temper tantrum, like getting mad at themselves. And it's like, you want out of control, you want it to handle it, you can't handle anything. And that's when the new guy shows up and he's like, at least we agree on something, asshole. The red one is just standing there like, you're alive? You made it? And then for whatever reason, he decides to like drop his helmet. It's like, no, he's in a coma. So he's like, because of you. It's like, why would you even show them your face? Like, they didn't even know Nathan's face, I'm pretty sure. But then again, they did come and attack Nathan in like human persona. So I guess they probably did know who he was. No explanation for how that happened, but whatever, we'll gloss over it. Because like I said, we're finally getting into like some actual super heroics where we get like a fight scene here. There's an actual honest to God fight scene. So we get into that and like he starts actually kicking like Red's ass. And then he's like, I'm not going to do you like you did Nathan. I want you to see this coming. And so he like punches Red or whatever. And then they keep going. Like, this looks pretty awesome. I really do love like the color usage and everything. Like, it makes all of this look so visually engaging and I love it. So he's doing that and he's like, you think you're hot shit, huh? I watched you back at the restaurant absorbing stuff. That's how you get armored, huh? Transmitting matter. Well, we screw with gravity because basically, apparently what we're seeing here is that each of these whatever they are, beings, whatever, they each have like their own way of like affecting their powers, I guess. So like he said, they fuck with gravity. That's why they're able to like fly and like throw like punches that are really hard. I guess that somehow factors into gravity. But then the red one is able to like absorb stuff and use that to like create further armor. So it kind of reminded me of like if anyone remembers Kim Possible when it was still good, like the way that Shigo and all of her siblings were, and the way that they were all like different colors, but they each had like a different way that their powers worked or whatever. It's basically the same thing here. Like each one has a different way, even though they all kind of look the same, they share a motif. They each have a different way that their powers manifest. So he's saying that he's like, as long as I keep you up in the air, you can't absorb shit. So all of a sudden the red one stops him. He's like, let's find out. So he grabs his fist like from within him and then starts basically just siphoning power, I guess, off of his suit. So he's like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, no. And then he's like yelling out in pain, but he does this like explosion thing, which sends the red one flying into what I can only assume is like a frozen lake. Yeah, it's a frozen lake because there's pieces of ice. So the red one is like continuing to sink down, but then we can see the transformation starts with like the glove or whatever, or at least that's what we can see. And so he's standing there, and we can see that the cape, which we have seen in a previous issue, but that was when Nathan was wearing like his future version or something like that, was wearing the cape or whatever, and it does look badass, like with the black on the outside and then just like the glowing luminescent blue on the inside. That's badass. I love it. So anyway, he's reacting the same way, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a cape mode, and it's dope as hell." Check. So he yells out to the red one. He's like, "Come on out! Like I just put on my good cape," and we can see the red glow coming from beneath him. Means yeah, they're coming. So all of a sudden we get this part, and still continuing the fight scene. I loved it. Like we get this part where red is breaking out of the ice, and then we get the whole literal womp womp womp. The red one comes up and like punches him across the lake and then is coming up still. And this armor does look pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. So we can see where he's like, oh god damn it. And then still getting just like pounded into the ice. I was like, damn, this looks pretty brutal. So all of a sudden he gets pissed and he's like, die or whatever. He just unleashes his energy. And then he's saying like, you dropped a building on my best friend. You took away the one good thing in my life. He was a good person, way better than me, which sucks for you because this is all I have now. And I'm not stopping until you're dead. And then he stops in the middle of that sentiment because he looks up and he's like, oh, it's a woman. Did not see that coming. And neither did I. So kind of reminded me of like the ending of Metroid. Like, oh my god, Samus was a woman? So she's like, I just wanted to scare him. I didn't. And then all of a sudden we see there's this voice coming from off panel where some people are all of a sudden showing up. And they're saying like, hey, sorry, really seriously, don't ever show up anywhere uninvited, but you're in legit danger. And so we see that we have now a pink and yellow Power Ranger, and they're showing up. They do look pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie about that. So they show up to kind of fill them in that there's some larger threat going on, so y'all's petty bullshit, you're gonna have to put it aside. Because literally like the older men, they start dropping their disguises, right? And the older man is saying like, we don't know, son, because he's asking him like, how many more of these things are there? Because he's asking like of them, like their costumes and shit, like how many more are there? And they're like, we don't. Well, the guy's like, we don't know, son. And then the girl's like, oh my god, you sound like 1,000 years old. Look, it doesn't matter. He's here. He's going to kill us. I've kept us one step ahead, barely. We saw you on the news. This is bigger than whatever you two are fighting about. So the guy's like, he can counteract anything we do. And then, what's his name is saying, you don't know what I can do. To which the old man's like, then you better hope you've leveled up fast, son, because I hit him with everything I have across the spectrum. So I guess we're going off of colors. And he's like, and he barely shrugged. So all of a sudden we see that he shows up, right? And they're all like getting attacked. And this looked pretty awesome, not gonna lie. Like I really do love the colors and shit that they chose for this. Like the way that they incorporate it. And then it almost kind of reminds me of like vaporware type of shit. You know what I mean? Like that type of 90s technology that was kind of like really popular for a little bit. It kind of has that vibe to it. But anyway, the new person shows up and's like, it hurts. I know. a consequence of playing with fire. You have something that is not yours. You will all lose your lives. Unfortunate, but necessary. You have no choice but one. Will your planet die as well? And so we get a look at the villain. He looks pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is a really cool design. So he's showing up, and that's basically where we leave off for now. And like I said, I actually enjoyed this issue. Like, I legitimately did. We finally got into the like super heroics. We got like a full blown like actual fight scene in here. And I mean, the only thing that was kind of depressing was that it was like Nathan's best friend. It wasn't even Nathan. So I'm like, what was well, no, I can't say what was the point. Obviously, Nathan's story kind of like set up the friend here, but what I'm wondering is like, is the friend going to continue being Radiant Black? You know what I mean? Or is like Nathan going to recover in some way? I'm willing to find out because the story actually got more interesting here. It took a few issues, but then again, a lot of comics do. I wish they would stop taking so many issues to get us into it. I should not have to like keep torturing myself and convincing myself, no, you have to keep doing the reviews for me to keep picking this up. You know what I mean? But I am glad that it's at least actually finally getting somewhere, and I am really like enjoying this. Like, everything is actually starting to finally come together. The art, the story, just everything is starting to fire on all cylinders. So I'm happy about that. And I'm going to keep picking it up. I'm going to keep checking it out to see where this is going to go. Because, like I said, this whole thing where they're bringing in new power, you can't tell me this isn't like Power Rangers. They have a black one, a red one. Now they have a pink one and a yellow one. If they bring, well, I mean, I guess like they kind of represent the blue one too. Because even though they're he's calling himself Radiant Black, I'm gonna say he because I'm saying they as though like Nathan's going to come back. He's calling himself Radiant Black still because like I guess that's just the idea, but like the powers also have like a blue glow. So, I mean, granted, I know you can't just show like a straight up black glow because then it would just look like shadow, but still, you know what I mean. So that's why I'm wondering, like, are they going to bring in an actual blue one, or is black going to have like the blue motif? I don't know. I'm thinking too hard on it. So, anyway, if you guys are continuing to keep up with this particular series, I would love to know what you are thinking on this because, like I said, I didn't know where this was going to go at first, and I was ready to start hating it because it seemed like it was going down that way. And then it took a little bit of a meaningful turn with one of the issues that wasn't even specifically like super heroic. It was just kind of like good advice for people who want to start like taking on some sort of like new career path, especially for younger people. But now that we've gotten into the fifth issue, it's actually turning into just a really good straight up superhero story. So I want to see what's going to continue to happen with that, but I would love to know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, then do feel free to like the video, subscribe if you want to come back for more comic book reviews. I'm also doing live streams every once in a while. I may just have a guest on depending on, what's going on. We'll see. If I can fit it into the schedule, I will always absolutely do that. But anyway, guys, if you are done here, then go watch a book. Yeah, you could do that too, I guess. But go read a book is my suggestion. And if you are not done here, then I will see you on my next video or live stream.